Good morning, and welcome to your morning cereal.
Okay, good morning and welcome to Tuesday and the new month of April. Well, today is a big deal because today we finish our first book review. And if you've been with us since the beginning, we will finish up Dale Carnegie's classic bestseller, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And that, friends, is no April Fool's joke. Well, today is April Fool's Day, though, and you may be asking yourself, why do we do this and where did it start? Well, surprisingly, there isn't a concrete conclusion by historians on what started April Fool's Day and its practical jokes. Some people think that it may have grown out of the medieval Feast of Fools. Either way, there's been some funny April Fool's jokes over the years. And they're funnier the farther you look back, because if you remember, there was a time when the television stations and the radio stations would kind of try to outdo each other by pulling a big April Fool's joke on the crowd. But too many people took them too serious. So many of those large media April Fool's jokes have stopped. But as I was kind of looking through the list, one caught my eye recently, and that was Burger King launching their hamburger toothpaste. Now that's nasty, and I'm glad that's an April Fool's joke. Well, in honor of finishing up Dale Carnegie's book today, I chose a quote from Dale that isn't in his book to jumpstart our day in a positive direction. And Dale Carnegie said this, quote, "Most of the important things in the world have been accomplished by people who have kept on trying when there seemed to be no hope at all," end quote. So keep pushing through, people. You can get there. Just keep swimming. Well, today's news fact and birthday are for April 1st. Well, let's jump back and start in 1976. And on this date, April Fools of all days, that's when Steve Wozniak and Steve Jobs, that's when they founded Apple Computer in the garage of Steve Jobs' parents' house in California. Then on this date in 1992, NHL players began the first strike in the 75-year history of the NHL. And then lastly, on this date in 2004, Google launched Gmail. And 5 years later, the number of people using the email service surpassed 1 billion. By raise of hands, who here still has their Yahoo account? I know at least one of you do, maybe even two. How about your AOL Mail or Hotmail even? If so, stay strong, people. Change is way overrated. Well, happy birthday to you if today is your birthday. You've probably taken a lot of slack for that over the years, but you're not alone. There's at least one other person that has her birthday on this date as well, and that's Scottish singer who was popular from American Idol, if you remember a few years back, Susan Boyle. She turned 64 today. And the number one song on this date back in 1989 was Eternal Flame by the Bangles. This second number one song for the Bangles was a follow-up to their first number one hit, Walk Like an Egyptian, making them at the time only the third all-female band to have two number one hits. Some in the business didn't think that the song could be a hit because the song Eternal Flame didn't feature any drums. Well, I guess they were wrong. Great song about eternal love. And for those of you wondering, Another Manic Monday, that only hit number 2 on the charts. Well, we're not just a bunch of fools here. We definitely support some self-improvement. So let's get into it here. These are my takeaways from the final chapter of part 4 of Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. And in this chapter entitled Making People Glad to Do What You Want, Carnegie's final words of wisdom for us involve many of the principles he's previously taught us. Carnegie says to be an effective leader and one that can change the attitudes or behaviors of others, whether at work, at home, or socially, we should keep these guidelines top of mind. Number 1, sincerity. We must be sincere when dealing with others. We should not promise something we cannot deliver. Personal and professional credibility is hard to build, but it's easily lost. Number 2, be clear. Know exactly what it is you are asking the other person to do. Number 3, be empathetic. Find out and understand what it is the other person wants, what motivates them. And number 4, perspective. How does the other person see this situation? We must identify the benefits for the other person, not the benefits for ourselves. Remember, people are principally concerned with themselves and their world. And then finally, number 5, words matter. Take your time to say it right. When you make your ask, form the ask in a way that communicates your idea and how that will benefit the other person. Carnegie remains grounded here, saying that it is naive to think that this technique will work on all people. But assuming someone takes pride in what they do and is interested in contributing, then you are much more likely to change an attitude or behavior. Okay, here it is. Carnegie's final principle of the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. In this final part 4 of the book, which is entitled Be a Leader, and this final chapter, which is entitled Making People Glad to Do What You Want, Carnegie's final principle number 9 is make the other person happy about doing the thing you suggest. Hey, congratulations on finishing this book with us. As you know, it's a timeless book that is consistently on all the must-read lists, and it's packed with rock-solid advice and actions for all of us to use and build healthy foundational concepts to live by. And I hope that's what you found. I hope that Carnegie's advice and actions have benefited you in your everyday life. Tomorrow, I'll introduce you to the next book that we'll be reviewing. And I'll also be introducing our new co-host. So be sure to come back for that. Also, don't forget, don't fall for anything that sounds crazy today. It's April Fool's Day after all. Hey, thanks for joining us today. Come back tomorrow and have a fantastic day. Don't forget to follow and subscribe to the Morning Serial podcast on the One Life Live It channel. You can find more episodes and videos by visiting our YouTube channel and the website at Sean Inglis and at SeanInglis.com, where you can also follow our other podcasts, the Mr. and Mrs. Inglis podcast and the Life Happens podcast. In these other podcasts, we'll dive deeper into everyday issues, self-improvement and well-being, business and finance, and we welcome special guests too. So join us. It'll be a good time, I promise. Thanks again for listening. Have a fantastic day, and we'll see you tomorrow.